Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I hope that everyone is having a fantastic day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in this part of the world. But welcome. My name is Kerry-Ann Powell, and I am the founder of Trafalgar Strategies, and I'll be your host for um, this particular day here. So I just want to check in. How are you guys doing? How are you? Um, we are really excited to have you today. We're doing a sales and marketing process mapping um, for exponential growth workshop today. We're going to come in, spend some time, focus on your business, and really kind of dive in to the things that we think are necessary for your business to thrive. All right. So if you registered for this, you're in the right place. If you are seeing this and you're thinking, what's happening over there? And you want to come in and you have a small and medium sized business that could do some help with optimizing your sales plan and sales process, it's the right place to be. All right. So tell me something. Where are you logging in from? I'd love for you to put in the chat. Where are you logging in from? What is your company name? And what does your company do for your customers? How do you help them? Because that's the good thing about owning a business, that you can come up with some really great ways to help other people. So we're going to sort of be really live right now and put in there the chat. Where are you logging in from? What is your company name? And how does it help your customers? Go ahead and put in the chat right now. We're going to pause a bit. This is where we're getting, a bit more warmed up. I know you've probably been, having sales calls today, talking to your team, doing a lot of work that would require you sitting down, or maybe you're up on battle away. So this will give you some time to kind of put yourself down and say, okay, I'm here. So Gay, is it Gay? I think your name is, or you're from Portland, Texas, and your company is called Callaway Resources. And you help with identity theft services. Praise God, because I'm telling you, that is a need right there. So let's say hi to Gay, everyone. Karina, she's Charisma Works. That's the name of her company. And they coach people in making people be better public speakers. Karina, can't we all just use that? Because everyone is afraid of speaking, right? So thank you for doing what you're doing, Karina, and thanks for being here. What else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Come on, put in where you're logging in from, what your company name is, and how you help your customers. How do you help your customers? All right. Hi, Ruby. Hi, Ruby. She's the founder of befittedbedding.com, and it's bridging bedding into the 21st century. And she's in Nevada, Sparks, Nevada. So bridging the bedding in the 21st century, I want to know what that means. But befittedbedding.com, if you want to check it out. Thanks for being here, Ruby. We're so excited to have you. Anyone else out there that's putting in where they're logging in from, what their company name is, and how they help their customers? Anyone else? Come on, we know that you guys have some really great businesses out there, so do a shout out. All right, well, thank you for playing along, Ruby and Karina and Betty. So, okay, so we're here, right? So who am I? Since you guys introduced yourselves, let me introduce myself. My name is Kerry-Ann Powell. I'm a business strategist, and I am the founder of Trafalgar Strategies. So we know here at Trafalgar Strategies, right, that running a business can sometimes feel like managing a chaotic tornado. And, put a yes in there if you feel that way sometimes. Even though you're helping your clients have smoother lives, you may be having chaos in the business at times. And so we really help business owners run their businesses smoothly so they can thrive, yes, in business for sure, but also in life. So I'll give you a bit about background about where I am. We're talking about sales and marketing process, right? And I have been selling since as long as I can remember. I actually love sales. Not everybody does. I get that. But I've really been selling like since I was, I used to bake cookies in my easy bake oven and sell them, right? But in terms of being paid to sell, I mean, my first sort of job, summer job, was there's a woman at our church who owned a hair salon, and it was kind of like, hoity-toity hair salon. Nowadays there's so many hoity-toity hair salons, but this one was like the first hoity-toity one in our area. And so she was friends with the family, so she hired me for a couple of pocket change. Well, in my 12, I was 12, so it wasn't like a real job, but I loved it because she wanted me to file a lot of her papers. And while we were doing that, I was noticing how she was selling, and I kept like saying, why don't we do that, or why don't we do this, or why don't we create a marketing flyer, and all these other things. And that was the first time that I realized that I actually really loved helping businesses to figure out how to sell better. And then, of course, I worked at the Limited when I was 16. Anybody still shops? The Limited still exists, okay? So I worked at the Limited. I worked at Williams Sonoma. Hello, Williams Sonoma. I love kitchen stuff. And I also worked at Ann Taylor when I was in college, in law school, I think. So, and I've always been sort of shown to be like the best sales associate, whatever, because I just really love having conversations with people about the things that I think they could actually get value from. And then, after college, I became a fundraiser and started learning how to ask for six-figure gifts and more. And then I began to, as I finished law school, I went to Washington, D.C. I was a lobbyist, and I became a fundraiser for the Washington, D.C. Martin Luther King Memorial on the National Mall. And I was a chief fundraiser, and we raised $120 million, me and my team. And that's when I started really asking for like multiple $1 million gifts, right? So my point is, you've got over 25 plus years of selling experience looking at you. So don't worry. I have your back, and we're going to get you through creating a process that works for your business, not for everyone else's business, but for your business. I have a short little video that I created about to help people who are hiring me to speak at their conferences to understand a bit of my philosophy on how I think it's important to have strategic conversations in small and medium-sized businesses. So we're just going to show you this video. It's like less than a minute.
Organizers and hosts, particularly those that are catering towards industry, because they have to elegantly balance between the needs of the audience, SMEs, and Fortune 500s, and that is no easy feat. My area of expertise is in business strategy, and I work primarily with smaller companies. And I believe we have to first acknowledge that they have a unique set of frustrations that are very different even within the same industry. When I'm speaking, I like to carry the audience on a 3-step journey. I offer a bit of humor so they can begin to see that they're not alone in this topsy-turvy world of business that they're in. This peace of mind elevates them above the day-to-day, so they can begin to envision what their business could look like, implementing new strategies and ideas. And then finally, provide practical tools that they can implement immediately with their teams. I mean, in the end, isn't that what we're all here for? Looking for a way to thrive?
All right, so that just sort of gives you a sense of who I am, my philosophy on learning strategies and implement them in our business so you can execute them. So that's me. So let's go ahead and move into the next stage. Now, what is the Founders Check-in? Some of you have registered. Some of you might have gotten messages from me and my team inviting you to come. You might have already been on our mailing list. You might have been at the Founders Check-in from last month. It's basically what I call a monthly dose of small business strategy. I started implementing this last month because I felt like there were so many questions and things that small businesses need in terms of strategy to implement in their business. And a lot of times the conversations that are out there aren't actually practical, or they're like short little stints of information, but you can't really execute them. And so, for instance, like AI, I think AI is the coolest thing ever. And I'm getting ready to implement different things with AI in my business. But when I'm talking to my clients, some of the real bottom line problems they're facing is You know, I just don't know how to close a deal, even if I had AI or not. Even if I had a robot doing it, I wouldn't know what to tell it to do. So that's why we're doing the founders check-in. We're doing a monthly, the first Thursday of every month, a 90-minute thing. Last month was for an hour, but this month we're going to do 90 minutes to give you space to be able to actually work it out and really go into some of the things that you need to be able to thrive in your business. Last month we did strategic planning and optimizing your strategic plan. Was anyone like that's currently on the call now? Were you on last call? Do you have anything to say? Was it great? Was it fantastic? If it was awful, don't say. But would love to hear your opinion, or just say, yeah, I was there. It was great. Type it in the chat. You know, I would love to sort of see you and welcome you back. You were sort of the inaugural members of the Founders Check-In. But anyway, the point is we're going to be doing the Founders Check-In once a month, and you know, we'll keep you guys posted each time that we have a topic, and would love for you just to come on board and really connect. Okay. All right. So here's how I'd like for the next 90 minutes to go. First, I'd like for you to play full out. I'd love for you to play full out, meaning enter the chat. When we say pause and do a thing, do a thing. We have a worksheet that we're going to be giving you guys. It's, by the way, what you're seeing in front of you is our sales template, our sales process template that's fillable, editable. You can delete and act, but I'm giving you this so that you can use it to start your own sales process, okay? And then at the bottom of the worksheet, you will have questions with the steps that we're going to be teaching you throughout the course, and the questions that you can ask yourself so that you can begin to build your own sales process. My team is going to be putting the link to this document in the chat. It's a Google link. All you have to do is make that, like, copy that as your own, and then you can use it as you would like. All right, you can download it, you can work in it, whatever you want to do. Also, too, just so you know, I'm not doing this on my own. Okay, my team is in the background doing it. Edgar and Lovely, they're two fantastic team members. If you can just say hi, Edgar, hey, Lovely, thank you for doing what you're doing. So in the chat, if you see my face, it's actually not me typing. It's likely Lovely. Tell hello, say hi to her, be well, be nice to her, and if you have any questions, put them in the chat. She's going to answer them as best she can. So we want you to play full out. We want you to actually pause when we say pause and do a thing. We want you to chat. We want you to actually show up, bring your energy into it. We also want you to connect with each other. I really believe that supporting each other as founders, particularly of small and medium-sized businesses, is an important part of our journey. So connect with people. Say, hey, I'm so-and-so, link with me, connect with me on LinkedIn. If LinkedIn is not where you show up most of the time, you can put your other handles, but really connect. And then, you know, I teach a whole course on networking, and I notice a lot of people will like connect with people, but they don't actually connect. Do a virtual coffee, do a thing so that you'll actually connect with people, and you'll never know where the next, you know, your next business lead might come from because of someone you connected with. And then 3, focus on your business. I know that your lives are crazy, crazy busy, but if you could spend the next 90 minutes by turning your phone off, don't respond to that email, that notification, really focus, pull down the worksheet that we are giving you, fill it out when we say, here's what you can fill out, so that you really are focusing and it's actually leveraging the time that you have. All right? Can I hear a yes in the chat? I'm going to play full out. I'm going to connect. I'm going to focus. Okay, fantastic. Anyone chatting there, by the way? Edgar, you want to put that on the screen? Yeah? No? All right. There's a good hello from Gay Calloway again. And Benita Phillips. Hi. Thanks for saying hi to the team. Okay, great. So let's move on. All right. Now, you will get the link for the worksheet in the chat. You'll also have a link in the chat that Lovely's going to put in there, and it is a 30-minute session to speak with me. If you'd like for me to work with you or to look at your sales process, to review it, and to kind of, you know, help you tighten it up as best you can. Okay. So the link's going to be in the chat. feel free to schedule a conversation with me. It will be with me, okay? And also too, if you are on this chat live, just type live. And then if you are listening to this on the recording, just press the recording or whatever the thing is that they have on LinkedIn. This is also streaming to my YouTube channel, to our Facebook page. So you can know that if you don't always hang out on LinkedIn, you could see this again on those pages. Okay, so let's jump in. Based on the poll that I sent out to each of you, it looks as if, based on, and some of you responded, some of you didn't, based on the responses, the majority of people, owners that are here, founders, have between 2 to 5 employees, okay? Next, we have folks that it's just you, you're owning, you're the solopreneur at this point. And then we have some folks that are in the 11 to 50s rate and some people to 5 to 10 rate. It basically means that everyone that has responded is small business, which makes sense because that's the type of clients that I primarily work with. But so we're all small businesses, which means the stage of your business that you need to be focused on right now is cash. This is just the business life cycle. That's where the focus is for your stage of business. Cash, cash, cash. Cash is the blood, the life flow in your business. However, 80% of failed businesses fail due to lack of cash. It's the number one reason why businesses fail. Not just small businesses, businesses. Okay. So if that's the case, then if you don't know really what the reason is why there may be a cash problem, but if there's a cash problem, it leads to a feast or famine cycle in your business. Yeah. So, you guys know the process. Most business owners and most small business owners will report that they have a feast or famine type of cycle in their business. Feast side, everything's happy, hunky-dory. You've got plenty of clients. You got cash is abundant. You feel good. Everything's going great. But then there's a famine side and, the sales are low. The pipeline is dry. You're like, can I find a prospective client anywhere, right? And you're experiencing stress and uncertainty. If that's you, say yes, put it in there. So what are the problems if you have a feast or famine cycle happening in your business? Well, if you have a feast or famine cycle on a regular basis in your business, you have a lack of business growth at best, because if you don't have cash, you can't invest in the business. At worst, you have a business failure problem because you cannot pay your employees, your vendors, and eventually it will die. Okay. So those are the big problems. If any of this feast or famine cycle description is you, just put that in there and say, yep, that's me. I understand it. I experience it. It is me. Now, here's the thing though. Most small businesses at some point in time experience moderate ups and downs in sales. So if you are having a moderate up and down situation, then it is what it is. It's a part of it, but it's moderate. And I'm talking moderate to less than moderate. But if you are having inconsistent sales on a regular basis, it is a critical sign that your business is in trouble. So what do we do with that? Okay. And if you can think about why, so remember, there are many reasons why you could be having an inconsistent sales problem. It could be a product market fit. The business model might not be working. It could be any of those other fundamental reasons. But let's assume, because we're talking about sales, that it's a sales problem. Why do you think you're having a sales problem? Just off the cuff, if you think about the business, what do you think the reasons are? And again, look, playing full out right now, okay? Everyone's here trying to just become a better business owner. So just if you could think about, type in the chat, what do you think is the main reason why you may be having an inconsistent sales problem in the business? I'm going to give you a second to kind of think that through and put it in the chat. And then Edgar, if anyone pops in, just pop it up and let me see. Is it an I don't know situation? Or you think, oh, well, it's because I don't have enough leads. It's because they get to a certain point and then they stop, they stall. What do you think is the reason why um, you are having an inconsistent sales problem? Okay, well, I'm not sure if anyone's responding. Okay. Fanita says it's marketing for her. Okay. I'm assuming it's her. It could be they or him. But so you think it's marketing. Okay. Um, Lack of brand awareness with my dog treats. Lick you silly. Oh, Barbara, you got me, girl. My sister has a dog. I think I need to send her to your website. But it's lack of brand awareness. And I think that's real true. So marketing, lack of brand awareness. Um, you don't make enough phone calls. You spend a lot of time out at networking and that works, but you don't make phone calls. Okay, I see. Yeah, sometimes we lean towards the strengths of what we know is easier for us to do and don't do the things we don't like to do, which makes sense. Okay, so those are some real reasons. So let me talk about some of the things that I have found, some of the real reasons what have happened in some of the businesses that I've worked with. One reason is that the marketing isn't working. So I think for the most part, all three of you kind of said the same thing. The marketing isn't working. You don't have enough qualified leads there. So that's one reason why the sales are suffering. Number two, it could be that you think you're selling when you're actually only marketing, right? So people are like, oh, I'm doing a dance on TikTok. By the way, I'm not knocking TikTok because people are making tons of money on there, but depending on your industry, but they think that the posting or the thing they're doing is actually selling, and that's not selling, that's marketing. And so making sure you're very clear what you're doing. So the balance, we'll talk a little bit about education versus promotion and being sure about what the balance is of your doing your marketing. Number three, targeting the wrong buyer. So, Barbara, I think you had that cute lick you silly a dog thing. You wouldn't be targeting people who have cats, right? So obviously, you're a savvy business owner, but sometimes you'd be surprised that we target the wrong buyer. And if you need to get a little bit more like concrete about in your marketing plan. By the way, we're not going to go into your marketing strategy on this call, okay? But we're going to look at the process of how you do your sales process. So like identifying who are the people that really do buy your sheets, for instance, in the bed fitting sheets company. What is it? Are there people that are recently married that have an income between this and that, and they live in this area? Versus if you're selling it to people who already have so many sheets that they're ending their sheet buying life. Okay, so sort of understanding who you're targeting the wrong buyer. Number four, buyer is not a decision maker. So some of you may be selling into large corporations, and the process. If you've ever sold into corporate, you have to sort of do a whole juxtaposition of who is it that I'm speaking to and who do I need to be speaking to, because the decision maker may seem like you may be speaking to someone who you think is a decision maker, but it's not. So you need to get to that point real fast, or there's a situation where it's decided by committee and you have to have several meetings to speak to everyone. And number five is the buyer is not ready. The buyer's not ready. So many of us try to still get the buyer to move into the decision and they're not ready. And that's where you have to qualify to make sure they're actually ready. The timing is right. And then I think we have number six, you don't know how to address objections. People have a hard time with objections. They just hate it. They say blah, blah, blah. They just get annoyed and they just don't handle it. Or they don't hate it, but they don't know they haven't optimized their response to objections quite yet. So they're saying things and they don't really know exactly, what to say. And then of course, lack of follow through. To me, that's number seven, is such a big one. And I think it was Gay that said that, in terms of, you're not making the phone calls. There's also the process where so many people will have a client and they, a prospective client, and they were supposed to follow through. They never did. They leave all these things. Now it's too late to follow through because you look embarrassed. So the follow through part is actually one of the number one problems that I have noticed, is that there's just lack of follow through with anything. So here's the thing though. You know this, but I'm just going to scare you into it. No sales means no cash. No cash means no growth. No growth in a business. Business is just like anything in nature. If it's not growing, it is dying. So it's a slow death. Okay. So so this is important for us to recognize that we can't just sit around and not address it. No, why would you not wing it? So the title of this is your sales and marketing process mapping for exponential growth, which means you're going to be doing some mapping. So you're like, why not wing it? Well, winging it is not an actual strategy. That's one. But I think for business owners, entrepreneurs, we love a little bit of this, right? Oh, we'll figure it out because we're figure outable people, right? So you're like, well, we don't really need a process. And I think that's why it gets you back to the concept of what's the difference between, like, how do you balance between flexibility and control? One of the good things that we have as small business owners is that we are more flexible than, say, a Walmart or an Amazon, because we can pivot and we're more agile. A baby is more flexible than, say, someone who is 90 years old. However, a baby does not have self-control over anything. So as we mature as businesses, you want to begin to put into place controls that will allow for you to be able to, you leave a little bit of the flexibility behind. You create more controls, but you are more mature. Now, if you enter young adulthood, your early 20s, you still might have a little bit more flexibility, but not as much flexibility as you did when you were, 6 months old. But you have more self-control than you were when you were like 12, right? Then you start getting to your 40s, you have a little less flexibility. Your back's doing a thing, whatever, but you have a lot more control. You begin to see, though, companies that are aging. And those aging companies are the ones where they have so much control that there's no flexibility in their company. And that's when you need to go back. So the goal of a business is the balance between flexibility and control. As we mature in our businesses, we need to be creating more controls to balance out the flexibility. And that is why you want to create a sales system. Okay. So a sales system will include your sales methodology, your sales process, and your sales playbook. Now, we're going to focus today on sales process, but I think it's important for you to understand the difference between your sales methodology, sales process, and your sales playbook. So why should you have a system? Remember, we're going into balancing between flexibility and control. We don't want to wing it. So the importance of creating a system is, one, it centers the prospect and their problems. I'm telling you, I was having a conversation this week with one of my clients. She's fantastic. She does all kinds of fantastic things. She's working with very large, high-level clients. So her methodology is sound, and her work is sound, her product is sound. However, she was saying, I don't know why, something is wrong with this. I had 2 conversations this week, and I wasn't able to get them to close, right? And I said, okay, well, tell me a little bit about, what you were saying and what they were saying. And then what did he say? And then what did you say? That whole thing, right? And I began to realize that she was spending an inordinate amount of time speaking about her methodology, her process in the business. No one cares about how the sausage is made. Now, of course, you do need to talk about your product when you are selling, depending upon the industry that you are in. But you want to center the prospect's problems more so than your product, okay? And having a system allows you to center the prospect's problems. Number 2, it enables consistency and eliminates mistakes. You know that, I know that. If you have a system in place, and you do it over and over again, you can kind of do it with your eyes closed. I mean, when you can drive home from your house to the grocery store without even thinking about it. It's like it's route memory now. It's the same thing with your sales process. If you know your sales process, you can do it with route memory. It eliminates the mistakes of learning something and winging something. Number 3, it allows you to improve and optimize over time. So you have a sales process. You're not going to have a perfect process once you start putting it into place, but the more you do it, the more you optimize it, the more your team tells you, well, that didn't work and this didn't work. Let's change this. Let's change that. Tweak it to the point where it's perfection. 50% of high-performing sales organizations consistently monitor and enforce sales processes in their business. That was a study that was done by the Harvard Business Review. I'm telling you, it works, it works, it works. Number 4, it fosters accurate sales forecasting. Excuse the misspelling there. So if you are trying to forecast your sales process, I can't tell you, like when I first start with clients who are not, like, their businesses don't have a system, I'm like, okay, so tell me more about, who do you have in the hopper? Like, what are some of the hot deals coming up? I'm like, oh yeah, I've got about 10 hot deals that I think are going to probably close in the next 6 months, and they're hitting book value of this and blah, 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 blah. And then you start looking and only 2 close and they go below book value. Why? It's because they don't actually have a sales process to be able to forecast anything. Yeah. So, or it's not very strong. If you have a system in place, you can be able to increase your ability to predict more accurately when your sales are coming in, which means, guess what? Your cash flow situation is sorted a bit more, and you're not dealing with the feast or famine situation. 70% of sales predictions were accurate for companies that have a defined sales process. And that was a study done by the task group. All right, number 5. It removes the stress associated with improvising. Okay. So I know, again, entrepreneurs are a bit crazy bunch of people, right? We love a little bit of this, but there is some stress in improvising. And there are some personality types in your business that are doing sales for you. Now, the majority of you are doing sales on your own based on the survey that I put out. So if you're the one doing sales on your own, then the stress associated with improvising takes away the stress from you. If you have a team member that's doing sales for you, it takes away the stress. Any kind of thing that takes away stress is a good thing. All right. And then number 6, it enables you to scale. To me, that's the biggest thing. Even if you are a solopreneur and you have and you're getting ready to scale, you need to have these systems in place in order to be able, when you're not the one doing sales, you can hire someone to do the sales for you, build up a team to do the sales for you, and everyone knows what is going on there. Okay, so that's the benefits and the reasons why you want to have a sales system in place. Now, what exactly is a sales methodology, and what's the difference between the sales process and the sales playbook and the methodology? Blah, 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 blah. Here it is. A sales methodology is simply a broad philosophical or like set of principles, yes, that can inform you how your sales process is built and conducted. There are many different philosophies out there and many different methodologies out there. Different people subscribe to different ones. Here's a few of the more popular ones. You can Google them. And the point here is, it is the way of being of your sales process. It depends based on your industry. It depends based on your product, your client, even what country you're in. A lot of these things work differently. Now, there are some common themes in them, but for the most part, you want to select a process, a methodology that fits your business, and train yourself and your staff on that methodology, or create your own methodology, but make sure you know what the philosophy is on your sales process. We do gap selling here in the Trafalgar Strategies. And that's just basically, the idea here is that we put our prospects first and we focus on developing more of a deeper understanding of the problems that they're facing, the goals that they're trying to reach, and what's the gap in between. And then we kind of from there find a solution that works best based on the products that we provide to be able to fill the gap. So, and we also might put some solution selling in there in a mix, but philosophically, it's a gap selling company that we are. You choose what you want. It seems as if, based on the poll that we put out there, that the majority of you have a methodology to some extent, but it's not fully being utilized in your business. Pick one, run with it, train yourself on it, and build your sales process based on that. Okay. We have a couple of people that are saying no. Some of you said, yes, I have a sales methodology. We have picked one. We're standing our guns. I'm going to stand by it. And then there are a few that are saying, I haven't really thought about it. And that's perfectly fair as well. Now, if you have a sales methodology, I'd love for you to put that in there, like based on all the different ones that you have up there. Maybe you want to go back, Edgar, to the slide that showed the sales methodologies, and just sort of, if you follow one of those sales methodologies, if you could put that in the chat, and just sort of say why you use it. Is it because you sell into government and you need this sort of sales methodology to do that? Maybe because you sell into corporate, maybe because you're selling into a particular, maybe you sell a product that is regulated, and so you need to have a different sales, but put in the chat, yes, I have a sales methodology. No, I don't. This is my sales methodology. I'm just curious to sort of see your vibe. Okay. Edgar, if anyone does put anything in the chat, I'd love to see it, if you wouldn't mind pulling it up here. Also, too, if you just have your own methodology or your own thoughts around sales, put that in there as well. I'm really want to know. Remember, play full out. You guys promised. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. Sales process. A sales process is the explicit steps that are taken at each stage of the buyer's journey to get your prospects from one step to the other and eventually to convert to a paying customer. That's the sales process. The difference between a sales process and a sales methodology is, guess what? Specificity. Basically, a sales process is actionable steps. A sales methodology is your broader philosophy. Yeah? Okay. So with a sales process, this is our sales process. I remember I showed you the chart, the chart that you have, the worksheet that we gave you to download. Please download it. It's basically editable, fillable, but this is our sales process. To be honest, actually, we need to edit it and update it because there's some things on the outbound cold thing that's not working. But this is our process, much more specific than me saying we do gap selling. Okay, so moving on. A sales playbook is now a document, much more detailed than your process. Our process is a one-pager. The playbook is several pages. And it's a document that outlines in detail what your salesperson should know, do, say, and show. Okay? So, no. Well, they need to know what the ideal customer is. And if you're doing it, if you're the salesperson in your business, who your ideal customer is, meaning I sell to companies that are, that have, and at least this number of employees, this amount of top line revenue based in this particular company, this country, what your buyer personas are. I sell bed sheets to young couples who are starting their lives together and they're the main buyer persona. My capabilities in my business is blah, 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 my product. So what what you do, your tactics that you have in your business that you use for sales, your practices, your strategies, what do they need to do? Okay. And then in terms of what do they need to say? And even if you're the only one selling in your business, or even if you only use your website to sell, what are you saying? What is the messaging that you use? What are the ways that you handle objections? If you front load your objections or you back load your objections, you got to have you got to have a way to handle those. What are you saying or writing? What are the talking scripts? What are the questions? What are the stories that you share? That's the saying part of it. And then, of course, there is the showing part, your whiteboards, your graphics, your videos, your demos, all of your case studies, all the things that you show when you're in sales. So that's your playbook. It's going to have all the details that are going. So it's much more detailed than your methodology and your process, but it's kind of the way that you actually do the thing. Okay, it's how you stuff the sausage. All right. So 2 things to consider when we start thinking about the 4 steps to do your sales process. 1, sales and marketing alignment, and then 2, your buyer's journey. Okay. Now, sales is not marketing. Marketing is not sales. We know that. Everybody knows that. But we often don't really know. It's a weird dance between sales and marketing, right? Back in the day, sales and marketing were like, oh, that's sales. Over there is marketing. We don't hang out with them. Marketing builds awareness. Sales converts those leads. We know that to be true. However, in a small business setting, I really believe that the thought process around marketing, I don't know who came up with that word, but the word's out there in the universe. It's really the alignment of your sales and marketing in a way that when you're creating your processes and you're thinking about your processes and you're thinking about the steps in your business, to making sure that it's aligned well. Okay, so we're going to be thinking about that. There's going to be a fundamental underlying tone to it when we are talking about how to do your process. Now, I asked the question in the poll that I sent out to you guys, which of the following statements is most accurate? Okay, most of you said that your sales and marketing efforts are part of one system or in the same team. So you guys are ahead of the game, and I love that. Some of you are saying my sales and marketing efforts are separate, but my team communicates with each other seamlessly. Hallelujah. That's what I'm talking about, alignment. Some of you are saying my sales and marketing efforts are separate in my business. Now, I don't know, that could be that they're separate and never the twain shall meet. You maybe you might outsource your marketing because the business that you do is more like, you're using sort of maybe billboards or different types of things, depending on your product, right? But regardless to say, as a whole, as the business matures, the sales and marketing do separate more, but I still think it's important for there to be alignment in that. Okay. So we're going to be speaking about it in the sense of as a small business where it's more connected than separate. And then the other fundamental thing I'd like for us to think about is buyer's journey. Look, back in the day, if you're anywhere over the age of 35, you remember your parents would go to a dealership to buy their car, and Joe down at the dealership would show them all the new fancy cars that are out there that have to test drive all these cars. You're going to tell them all the specs. They give you a little sheet of paper to see all the specs in the car. That is not the way people buy cars right now, right? Everyone knows where they're going to buy a car. They know all the specs before they even get down to the dealership. My mom bought a car the other day, and we just basically walked to the dealer and said, we want that car because we'd researched that specific car on their website. We knew we wanted it. We went there, we bought it. It's cut everything down. So the buyer's journey is way more important now than before in sales. And if you're not thinking about how your buyer's buying, you are losing money on the table, you're leaving money on the table, and you don't have a good sales process. So there are some three main steps or stages that buyers go through when they are thinking about buying something. There is the awareness stage, there's the consideration stage, and there's the decision stage. Those are the three stages. We're going to go into more detail in them further on down when we're in step 2 of creating your sales process. But in the front part, I just wanted you to think about sales and marketing alignment and your buyer's journey as you dive into your building of your process, your mapping your process. So how exactly do you start a sales and marketing process? How do you start that? And some of you said you already have a sales and marketing process, but how do you actually start? So like we had 57% that says they have a sales and marketing process, a sales process to some extent, but not fully. So here we are, we're going to try to we're going to try to tighten it up. Okay. Some of you already said, no, you don't have a process. And then some of you said, yes, you do, but as a smaller number of people. So I'm going to assume that you have a process that is in your head, because you wouldn't be in business if you didn't have some level of a sales process. Okay. The thing is, it's not really a process. It's kind of a thing that you do. So I'm going to just come from this, like you already have a sales and marketing process in your head somewhere. The goal here is to get it out of your head. So how do you get it out of your head? Well, first you interview your sales team or yourself. And if you don't have a sales team and you need to interview yourself, you might be difficult. Like, how do I interview myself? Because like there's some things that you have in your head that you already like know it, but you don't know how to actually teach it. So if you can't pull it out of your head, have a friend come and sit down with you, buy them a meal, and have them ask you some questions while you record, and just have them ask as many questions because you want to do it with someone who doesn't know your business. Like just ask and ask and ask and ask. You want to make sure that as you're asking, that the more confused they are, the more that you're going to be answering the questions, and you'll get it out of your head. Oh yeah, they call, and then what do you do when they call? Well, we first have to kind of ask them, like if you're an exterminator, they call because they have an exterminating problem. They have to first find out what exactly the bug is that they're exterminating, then we kind of do a thing, we visit just to make sure. And then we do this thing. And before we do that, we have to do this, right? Get it out of your head. First things. Second, you step into your customer's shoes. Be Like, get out of your head now and get into your customer's head. So what did they, when they responded to that email, like, or didn't respond to that email, or they liked when you said this thing, sort of get into their shoes and figure out what it was that your customer does and did that made them say yes to you by just imagining what they did. Okay. So remembering and recalling the things that really make sense when they get excited about, oh my gosh, look at these sheets, or oh my God, you can completely eliminate my identity theft problem. And that's when they say yes, right? Whatever the thing is, you do the thing and you write that down as a process. And then you excavate any of your stall sales. So people that came to your website, dropped, didn't buy, figure out where they went along in the process. If you were having the conversations, you had a preliminary qualifying conversation, they seemed excited to go on with a robust other conversation, but then they ghosted you. Then you want to find out, like, what part where did they start stalling? Where do you think when did they cancel the meeting? Did you send something over then they stopped calling? Like, what was it? Excavate those stalled sales. And then examine lost sales. The difference between a lost sale and a stall sale. A stall sale is they ghosted you. Lost sale, they told you that they're not going to hire you. They're going with your competitor. But either way, you want to excavate and examine the lost sales too. Where in that process did that go wrong? Put that down on paper. And then number 5, you want to ask your customers why they said yes. If your customers love you and if you're delighting your customers, they are so excited to tell you why they bought your product, right? It's like, oh man, I was excited to know that the Lucky Licks or whatever your company is, Barbara, has, organic stuff for dogs, or maybe, the sheets finally fit the way that I could make my bed easy, or I realized I could actually have my identity theft, whatever the thing is that they told you, that's what you're going to go with. All right. And then, well, oh, we said these words when we said it, or we showed her the thing and she said yes, or we gave them a statistic and they said yes. Right. So, okay, there we go. You get it. Yeah. So here's step 1 in creating the process. You can start anywhere. This is where we start. We start at the buyer's journey. In my opinion, that's where you need to be because those are people you're trying to convince. So the buyer's journey. Here, we talked about awareness being the first stage, okay? And under awareness, we have general curiosity, and we also have acknowledged pain and commit to change. Now, I want to just pause for a moment. I'm going to explain to you what these means and what it means for generally. Remember, as you're working through your process, general curiosity might be different for your type of client. So just don't get hung up on the lingo, the definitions. It's the concepts I need for you to grasp and embrace as you build your process. All right. So general curiosity, the buyer is not yet aware of a need. They're not thinking about you. They're not even thinking that they need to have a dog treat or a bed or get their identity, fixed or whatever. They don't even know that that's a problem. So that's the stage when they're on general curiosity. They may also be aware of a potential need, but they feel no rush to change. So if you're selling into corporate and you're a DEI consultant, they may think that they have a DEI problem, but do they really? It's not urgent. We don't need to change it. Or they become aware of your company through your marketing outreach, but they're still sort of a little bit curious. They're not saying they need that. This is a stage of general curiosity. So why is that important to know the buyer's journey? Because are you going to be speaking to them as if they're getting ready to buy the purchase right now? No, you're going to be, giving them some information. If they're not even aware of the need you may be needing in your marketing, you may need to aggravate the need. Okay, so that's general curiosity. The second stage of awareness, they acknowledge the pain and they are committing to change. Okay, so they are aware of the need. So say, for instance, they have a DEI problem, but they were just sort of ignoring it. And then all of a sudden, they get sued by their employees because there's a rampant sexual harassment happening in one department. And it's a big class action suit. Okay. They're now aware of a need and it's a compelling event. Okay. So they spend the time now committing themselves to educating themselves on the options. Just because they're aware of the need and they've acknowledged the pain and they're committing to change doesn't mean that they've decided that your solution or the solution of your industry is the solution that they're going to be using. They're just saying, oh, we have a problem. Let's start looking to see what the solution could be. Yeah. All right. Consideration is the next stage of the buyer's journey, exploring the solutions and committing to the solution. Exploring the solution. So now they realize they have a problem. Now they begin to engage with different companies. They engage with your company. They engage with another company in your industry. They may engage with another company who has a different solution that's not your solution. The point here is they're trying to determine if the solution that you give, that you are presenting, is a solution to fix the problem. Okay. So you think about like back when COVID hit and we had to work at home. Okay. Some people didn't have home offices. So they were thinking, okay, what's the best, they may realize they have a need, but they're thinking, what's the best type of solution? So they may look and consider having a she shed in the back of their home, right? To create a safe office. They may decide to use one of the guest rooms, but then they now have to think about getting a desk, getting different things they need to make sure that they can work. They may consider building a whole room attached to their house. So there's many solutions they're considering. They're not considering necessarily your industry, but they're engaging your industry to hear what you have to say or see what you're writing on your blogs, go on your social media, make a phone call into your company, send an email. They're just exploring. Commit to a solution. They've decided now, yeah, okay, I definitely need to build a she shed in the back of the house so that I can have an office out there. I'm not sure what company I'm going to, am I going to have someone come and build it? Am I going to buy a plan and build it myself? So they're now gathering proposals, engaging in presentations. They want their dog to have a treat. Maybe they just need to go buy one of those regular treats that are in the store, that's already been there. Or maybe they want to have a special kind of fancy treat. They're not really sure that you're the company they're going to select, but they're having these sorts of conversations or going and looking at your website. You would have a different conversation with them if they were in the awareness stage versus the consideration stage, or if they were in the decision stage versus the consideration stage. That's the reason why you want to know where your buyer's journey is. Okay, then we move into decision. Decision stage is where they're selecting the brand preference, they're making a decision, they're also purchasing their transaction. So brand preference and making a decision, the buyer asks questions, presents objections, they're negotiating pricing, they're asking the kinds of questions that sometimes, I don't know, salespeople get annoyed with, but I think it's a great sign. If a woman is in a relationship with a man and she's sort of nagging a little bit, as the word, whatever, that means she's vested. She's asking. She's saying, hey, I want us to start going on date nights, or I want us to do this. I want us to do that. If they're quiet, ain't nobody asking anything, they are out. Okay. It's the same thing with your buyers. If they're asking questions, they are vested. They're considering you. If they are having the conversation, if they're not asking any questions or ghosting you, they're not involved. So we want to make sure that these are the stages of the business where you need to kind of control what's happening, but also be answering the kinds of questions they need. The buyer makes a decision to go for it or not go for it. So they're selecting you. And these are when you need to give them some emotional and logical reasons to buy. Your dog needs to be healthy or deserves a treat. Or you need to make sure, a logical reason is, if you have identity theft, you need to be able to fix it because these are the reasons, these are the logical reasons why, and then an emotional reason here or there. Okay. So this is the stage where that's happening. And the next stage of decision is actually the payment part. So you have a smooth, comfortable, and frictionless payment purchasing process in your business. They want to engage in that. Now, I want to be clear. Like, for instance, if you're selling to corporate, I've got a lot of clients that selling to large corporations. they have a long, like, I've got a client who's waiting now for 3 months for their purchase order number, right? So, that's their process. But what I'm saying is, on your side of the process, you want to be able to create a smooth, comfortable, frictionless process. You want to, the worst time of a buyer is when they purchase something, they immediately purchase something and they have regret. So you want to be able to affirm the decision to purchase your product, your service. And this is when the buyer knows the next step of the onboarding experience, and it is delightful. Yes. So that's the buyer's journey. It can be, you can name it different things. You can decide that what's happening in that process is different. You need to think about, what would you call these stages, and what would your prospective customer be thinking if you think about them in the awareness stage, in the consideration stage, and in the decision stage. Just drop in. I'm going to pause for a moment, drop some notes, draft some notes and saying, yeah, when my clients are in the awareness stage, this is the behaviors that they're doing. But when they're in the consideration stage, these are the behaviors that they're doing. And now I can identify the difference between the two. So just kind of spend some time. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds, a minute, for you just to kind of write those things down and come up with the buyer's journey in terms of the awareness, consideration, and decision stage. What would you call these stages, and what would your prospective customer be thinking and behaving in each of those stages? And you can just drop something in there. Is there anything that popped up at you while I was giving you descriptions that you're like, oh wait, I didn't even realize that I've been speaking to my customers in the awareness stage as if they're in the decision stage. So if there are any insights that came up, think about that. So I'm going to make you to pause and just sort of think about this. Okay, thanks, Barbara. Yes, good times are coming. I love it, Ruby. Yes, Rome was not built in a day. Thanks, Karina. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I actually trust that, because you're a public speaking coach, Karina. So following up on business cards, following up on those I meet, networking. Yes, gang. Absolutely. The follow-up part, I mean, it's crazy how we lose so much by just not following up. Okay, so again, there are some questions. We can stop now and we're going to get back to it. But these are kind of things that I'd like for you to think about when you're working on your worksheet. You have a whole question section on that in terms of your behavior, what your buyers are behaving and how they're thinking during the stage of awareness, consideration, decision. Okay, so step number 2 in creating a process. Outline your company's marketing steps. Now, we talked about marketing and the concept, but just so you know, we're talking about your sales steps, okay? Just so you're clear. These are words that we all associate with sales, but we want to outline your company's marketing steps. So here's some stages. Like, this is how I look at those marketing processes and steps. We all know lead gen, we know prospecting, qualifying, reach preparation, approach, pitch, whatever. We know those words. But I like to lump them into stages that I think show up. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying chronologically in your sales process, they all have to be in the same thing. So for instance, your qualifying might actually be when you are having your first conversation, and some people might be doing qualifying before they even have a first conversation. You may not even be you may be qualifying in your marketing process. So I don't want you to think I'm saying that if they're in a stage, that means it has to be done chronologically. What I am saying, though, is if you can think about it in stages, it's like bite-sized chunks of things, so that you're thinking about your sales process. Now, we all know that lead generation, stage 1, is a marketing tool. It's known to be a marketing tool. Marketers create your marketing department, your marketing side of your business is creating lead generation. Prospecting is your sales tool of getting people. They're both bringing people into the business, potential customers, but they serve a different role. That's where the marketing thing comes in. Okay, we're merging marketing and we're aligning, aligning sales and marketing together. So stage one, lead generation, that's your marketing. Your prospecting is your sales. Your qualifying could be in your prospecting. Your qualifying might not be until later on, until you have a needs discovery conversation. Wherever you're doing your qualifying, and again, how you qualify, this is a conversation for another day. You might use the BANT process. I don't know how you qualify and what are the methods of qualification, but either way, you want to make sure that you are in that stage. Okay, second stage has the research and the preparation. Now, again, if you may be doing more research front loading because you're spending a lot of money in the marketing side of the marketing process. So you have to do a lot of research to make sure that you're getting the right ICP and the right buyer's persona and all that good stuff. But if you're selling into like a service, you're corporate, then the research comes after you have a needs discovery conversation, right? So for me in my business, basically, I have a 20-minute conversation with someone. I get a sense for, I qualify. I also get a sense for what their needs are because, we use the gap selling method. We figure things out, and then we schedule a more robust conversation later. Between those two conversations, I'm researching what their needs are. I'm researching whether or not we can provide the service to get them where they need to be. So some of the things that people come to me, I already know. I've been doing it with my eyes closed. We know we can do it in the business. But like, for instance, a couple months ago, we had a company that came to us, and one of the problems they were dealing with was their exit strategy. It was about 50 employees, and like 3/4 of them were family members. It was a family-owned business. The older generation was getting ready to retire, but they needed to create a structure where, one, can they be able to, pay themselves when they retire? Two, who in the young generation is going to be running the business? So I hadn't really done a lot of succession planning with companies in that type of a structure. So I just wanted to make sure we had the capacity, make sure based on what the conversation was we had with them in the initial qualifying conversation was actually something we could do. Once we do that, so the research stage and preparation, however it is that works in your industry, in your business, but there needs to be something that has a stage 2 in it, okay? Stage 3, it's the approach, okay? It's the pitch, it's the present, it's the co-create, it's the whatever you call it, okay? But it's the way where you say, we know your problem. We have a solution for your problem. Here you go. We can either co-create it together. Here's a solution. We've got cat and dog treats, right? And that's where you have the objection handling. Again, you can front load the objection handling, back load it, doing while you're doing it. But that stage 3, that's where you're approaching them, you're pitching them, and you're handling the objections. And then stage 4 is where you're closing and you're onboarding. And sometimes it's like, well, Kerry-Ann, why do you have onboarding and close? Because I'm just saying, if you haven't onboarded your clients, whatever that looks like for you, right after the close, you have lost it, because sales is, guess what? A cycle. It's a cycle. Just because you close a deal doesn't mean that you can't then actually get your clients to purchase something else. You may have other services, other products, other things. And if you don't onboard well, bam, you've lost all that energy in getting them to be a customer, and you've just lost all of that energy. So that's why I put onboarding in the same stage as closing, because it goes back to then stage 1, right? Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 to 4, and back again. Okay, so that's what I consider to be the stages of your marketing process. So now stage 3, so once you've outlined your buyer's journey, then you've outlined your company's marketing steps, and then in the worksheet that Lovely's put in there, you drop that in there. You sort of put everything in there, ask yourself the questions, have your friend, help you figure that out. Then you go to outlining what your company's marketing tactics are. Okay. Edgar, I want us to show our sales process before we go into the marketing, just to get people oriented. So now the top side of this chart is our buyer's journey. You see where we're having general curiosity, acknowledgement, exploring. The bottom side is where we're getting to step 2 and 3. And so now step 3 is the left side. Now we need to actually edit this because we've added a couple of more marketing tactics that we're doing. But currently for us, we do ads, SEO, do quite a bit of speaking for us. RACs, our relationship action plan, our deal force. We brought our cold emailing back in-house, so we no longer work with that. And we do some other things as well. So on the left side is where you want to think about your marketing tactics. Okay, now back to the list again. Sorry, Edgar. So you want to outline your company's marketing tactics. Now, we all know inbound, outbound marketing, two different things. Outbound marketing is where the business initiates conversations with their customers to attract them to your brand. Okay. Inbound marketing is where your customer initiates a conversation with you as a result of the activities that attract them. All right. So the things that examples of inbound marketing or outbound marketing is event sponsorships. Okay. So for instance, Barbara, if you've got your pet treats, right? You'd want to go to maybe a veterinarian's conference or something, or maybe a pet lovers conference where you might decide to sponsor that thing. That's an outbound marketing. Okay. If you go to trade shows and events, or maybe if you're selling sheets and they're prime, you may want to go to a bridal show or wherever you think young couples might be to buying sheets. Or maybe if you're doing the identity theft stuff, you might want to go to, legal conferences where lawyers might be representing, or maybe people who are dealing with other things. So outbound marketing, yes. Inbound marketing, you have a white paper that you've written about the importance of cleaning up your identity theft problem. You may have a case study. You may have videos. You may have fun videos on Instagram about pets loving your treats. Whatever that's your inbound marketing. Your outbound marketing, your inbound, we all know it, but I'm just reminding you of it so you don't forget. So list now, what are some of your marketing tactics in the chat? Drop what it is that you're doing in the chat. What are some of the tactics that you currently use in your business right now that are, out, and put it like, this is what I use for outbound. This is what I use for inbound. And I'm curious to see if you think that you don't have a good mix of inbound, outbound, say that. But put in the chat, what are you doing for inbound marketing? What are you doing for outbound marketing? And by the way, a lot of people right now are trying to tell you, oh, outbound marketing is not really a thing. It's old fashioned, it's old school. Not true. Not true. Don't buy that at all. Inbound and outbound marketing still is a thing, and it still is bringing a lot of people, lots of resources in their business, and it's getting ready to be close. It allows you to reach out to your client in your customer in a way that you can't with inbound. Okay. So anybody's chatting, Edgar, around what their marketing tactics are? Oh, come on, guys. What are your marketing tactics? What are you doing in your business? Think about it. All right. So if for some, again, I can't see the chat, so I'm relying on the team. But if you are putting things in there about your marketing tactics, then, just sort of think about that. Also, if you're uncomfortable putting your marketing tactics in the chat, use your worksheet to pull that out. You want to pull out everything you do. And you might realize, you might want to do an audit and say, okay, is this tactic working for me or is it not? Or is it still a thing for me, or should I be doing it more, or whatever the thing is that you're doing? Okay. All right. So we're going to move on. I'm assuming that we don't have anyone who's comfortable putting their marketing tactics in the chat, which is fine. You're perfectly fine. Okay. Moving on. Step 4, Outline the detailed steps in your company's selling process. Now, we've done the buyer's journey. We've done the company's marketing steps. You've done your company's marketing tactics. This is where you're cooking with mustard in step 4. You are needing to detail the steps in your company's selling process, step by step by step. Now, remember, this is not the buyer, it's not your sales playbook, but it's the steps in the process. So let's go to our sales process, Edgar. So here we'd say, like, under the first meaningful, by the way, the black labels are also editable in your chart, okay? Outline, cold leads, inbound warm leads, first meaningful conversation. You can change all of that in the thing that we've given you, alrighty? And but we want to put in here what's happening in each step. So for us, it's 20-minute meaningful conversation to qualify and identify needs. Buyer becomes a lead or not, and the sales process begins. So for us, this is where we begin to switch out. By the way, at the bottom, you'll see we have 90% education, 10% promotion under the lead generation and prospecting section. But then it goes down the way that we operate, interact with our clients. If they're in the consideration stage, then we're more coming from a 30% education and 70% promotion in how we operate in our communication. And then, of course, so we'd like for you to use these things to download, and if you don't have it already in your head, to decide today what you're going to do in each step of this process and put it in the chart and put it in the worksheet, okay? So if you're trying to figure out what it is, I want to refer you back to how to figure out your current sales process. Interview yourself and your team, have someone interview you, step into your customer's shoes, excavate your stalled sales, examine your lost sales, and ask your customers why they said yes. This is so important. This is where you're building the map that makes you know this is where we are, okay? So get back to step 4 in building your sales process. No, I'm sorry, back to the to how to build a sales process. So outline the detailed steps in your company's selling process. Once you have that sorted, then you can kind of see how step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 leads you to having a sales process. Now, our sales process has, and we've given you that template for you to work with. However, I wanted to show you another sales process that I used with another client to help them create their sales process. Okay, so you can see here, so they have several different maps that we use for them. The referral, this is from the referral prospect. So if they have a referral, are a big part of their business. So the next step is to have a needs discovery conversation. The next step is to research the background for the background meeting. The next step is to prepare the background meeting and talking points. Then they have a needs discovery conversation with the prospect. Then it goes down to the bottom right where they submit the contract with the deadlines and when the offer is due. Here you have a decision tree. If they haven't quite signed, they follow up for the contract signature, or they may go straight, the prospect signs, or they have to have another meeting with other team members. Remember, we talked about how it's really easy where there is more people to decide. Okay, so there's a decision tree happening right here at the bottom right. Then once the prospect signs a contract, then in that business, they get the prospect submit the deposit. Then they go to onboarding, and onboarding is in that sales process. Now, you might be asking the question, oh, Kerry-Ann, so what happens in onboarding? So let's go to the next slide. The next slide shows you, this is their process for onboarding that we help them create, right? So they sign the contract, the CEO assigns an account manager, Then there's an internal meeting about how they're going to fulfill the client fulfillment. Then they sort of, put some dates on there. They onboard the client onboarding meeting. Then it moves them all the way through the process until the work begins, and then the onboarding is finalized. So that's a part of their whole sales process. And so what I'm trying to get you to do, we could move back to our process slide, Edgar. That will allow for our process gets them to onboarding as well, but we have a different process here. My point in bringing you and showing you someone else's process is to say that it doesn't really matter. There's a couple things. It doesn't matter how you map it out. Two, I want you to consider the buyer's journey as well as your own journey and make it work for you. Three, knowing that each process in this stage might have a process map as well. Okay, so you may have a process map for if you have marketing tactics with your SEO, you may have a process map just for your SEO folks. If you have leads coming in from your speaking, you may have a process map for that. If you have folks coming in from your relationships and referrals, you may have a process map for that. The point is, though, if you have a good big process map for everything, then you can start building it out. On the worksheet, I've given you some tools you can use to process map. Canva, I love me some Canva. You can use Google Draw. But I also have someone that we work with that we found actually on Fiverr, and they build all of our clients process maps and so forth. So in any way, there are ways to build a process map. Do it, make it happen, and that's it. Okay, so I think we're done with all of the steps. Here are your 4 steps. They're all in your worksheet. Move that forward. And I guess the next thing I'd like to say is if you have any questions, this is a good time to put those questions in. So do you have any questions? And see, I'm finishing up a little early. So any questions? Now's the time. Remember, you have 30, I've given you guys the link to schedule something on my calendar. I think I saw a couple people already take advantage of the scheduling, so good for you. I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you about mapping it out. If you have, lovely if you could put it back in to the chat so that folks can find that in case they can schedule something. If you would like to work on your if you want to work on your review it after you've worked on it, then it's perfectly fine. And if you want to just download the thing and you haven't seen it, the link is in the chat as well. So yes, no Q&As, no questions? I'll give you some time to write them out. Finished a little early. I'm so glad. Get it out of here soon. All right, so we don't have any questions, then we're going to go ahead and assume all is well. Remember, we do our founders check-ins the first Thursday of every month. I hope to see you at the next one. We're not sure exactly what the title is going to be. Actually, if you think, I've thought about maybe doing a sales playbook class where you can figure out how to create a sales playbook for yourself. If you think that might be helpful for you, put that in the chat. But yeah, these are some of the things that the topics we'll be using are topics that we really think are really going to be valuable to founders of small and medium-sized businesses that are actually practical. So, okay, we have no Q&As. We're going to go ahead and sign off for today. Thank you for being here. Thanks for playing full out. And I wish you all the best. Looks like we have a lot of people scheduling booking calls. Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing this. Okay, meeting you guys. Fantastic. But yes, signing out. Let's say thank you to Edgar and Lovely for all of their work in helping to support us in having this fantastic conversation. Connect with people on LinkedIn. Be a generous and authentic networker. Don't be like, here's my card, send me clients, but be authentic and generous. And let's go ahead and make the day wonderful. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.